I picture just like this poor girl, like, why does he smell like shit so bad? That might be why it didn't happen. If we're strapping on our Sherlock Holmes hat here and trying to rationalize our way through it.
You know what, Watson? I'm pretty tired of your shit.
Hello and welcome to the Games That Made Us podcast. I'm Brent. I'm joined as always by my good friend Kirk. Say hi, Kirk.
I'm filled with rage.
Yay! And we're joined as always by our good friend Benny. Say hi, Benny.
Hey, everybody.
It's good to be back in the basement. We have, courtesy of Benny, we have a little gas-filled space heater. So it's oil-filled heater thing.
If it was filled with gas, I'd expect to die any second. Yeah.
Well, that's...
Fuck you, I'm sitting closest, man.
we have a dynamite-filled heater sitting right next to Kirk.
It's very safe, but I still expect to die any second.
Yeah, that's why that's just par for the course. I don't really have a joke there, but yes, mortality.
Yeah. Sidebar, I don't think these things can necessarily explode. I know, like the old steam radiators, those fuckers can explode.
Oh yeah, they'll blow up constantly. I don't know. I've never heard of one blowing
I think they just fail. And
I don't think they can get hot enough to actually like boil and reach.
Half these fucking things have even like tip sensors in them. Like ours, well, yeah, this one looks like it would too. Where if it even falls over for whatever reason, it just turns off.
Yeah.
Well, that was my mother-in-law's, and then it sat in my garage as I worked in my little workshop for several seasons, and now all the plastic on the front has shattered.
I was going to say, did she take a baseball bat to it at some point?
Just my bare fucking knuckles, Brent.
Looks like a Honeywell. Is that a Honeywell?
It might be. It's pretty. It works really well.
Yeah.
It's probably keeping us alive right now.
It works very
it's like 60.
Honeywell.
Oh, shut up, Brent.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. They just get up and leave.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out into the 6-degree weather and just like...
This is, I will say, it's so, thank you for that, because it's so much warmer than when Kirk and I were doing this in January last year.
And that was actually in the basement,
and
too.
That was in the basement.
Not the garage.
Yeah, that was fucking brutal.
I knew we'd probably need it going into these months, and so... Cool.
Yeah. Or not, actually. The opposite of that, warm.
I had my coat and I had my big heavy pea coat and stocking hat and scarf on. Like, it was God.
I work down there. That's what's deeply disturbing. Okay, because I have a game I want to talk about. Let's talk about what we've been playing recently. And I will start because I have something to talk about. I want to talk about Apotris. So I love Tetris. Tetris is great. But the original Game Boy Tetris is a little clunky in 2025, and there's been so much like advancement in terms of like quality of life stuff with Tetris, like if you play Tetris Effect or any of the more recent games. But those cost money. And Apotris is a free fan-made Game Boy Advance ROM, but they also have a Windows and Linux version. And it has quality of life stuff from more recent Tetrisos. No, okay. So it's got like push up to drop, to rapid drop, and it's got T-spins and shit. It's a more modern iteration of Tetris, and it's available on everything, and I've been playing so much goddamn Tetris. Apotris. It's great. I love it. I beat my high score. I got 225,000 on it recently, which is not anywhere near impressive, but has been mentioned on this podcast before. I'm not good at video games, so I was pretty pleased. I was just pleased to do a full clear for whatever that's worth. Kirk.
Oh, just I've been playing a lot of Helldivers.
Yes.
I kind of feel like I was always playing on like medium or hard difficulty.
Yeah.
But I found as I started actually unlocking more of like the ship modules for this game, which gives you certain like potentially passive or active buffs or whatever in a mission. I started going to like extreme mode, and I've been getting more rewards. So I've kind of jumped into that rabbit hole, or dove into the rabbit hole. Helldivers. Yeah, see what I did there? That, and I've jumped back into Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
John T. Spiderman.
Yeah, the Miles Morales. I played that. I don't know. I'd say it was like a year ago.
Yeah, I remember I was talking.
But
about
I didn't get too far into it. I got distracted with something else. So I've jumped back into that recently. Those Spider-Man games are phenomenal. They're so good and they're so pretty, and the controls are really nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of controls, I finally got my custom Xbox Elite Wireless 2 controller. Benny. Yeah. It doesn't have all the fucking manufacturing defects like the stock ones you get at GameStop and whatever.
It so scares me.
Yeah. So just to preface this, both Benny and myself, and another friend of ours too, Sean, who I played Destiny with, even on this podcast or bus stop or whatever it is that we do here. We've all had the same problems with the same fucking controller. Yeah. It's like I've returned 2 of them because right out of the box, like the A button, it doesn't register. Like you can feel it actuate.
Saying that
I just returned my second one as well. Just like yesterday, I sent it in the mail.
And the top bumpers, Sean ran into the same thing. The top bumpers just stopped working. And for a while, the bottom, you can program the bottom triggers to basically replace the bumpers, which I did for a while. But even then, those start fucking failing. Yeah. So, and doing the research, because a lot of people are like, don't send it back to Microsoft. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Microsoft should just fix the manufacturing defects, because the first Elite Wireless controller was... Oh my god, that first controller was amazing. So obviously you want the next one when it came out.
Yeah.
But it sucks. And it's an expensive controller. It's like $150 controller. Yeah. And went online and everyone was saying, well, if you order a custom one, it doesn't go through like the same manufacturing process, and they all come out pristine. And holy shit, that is 100% true. It took almost 2 months to get to me.
Yeah.
But it is a beautiful controller. Might have a picture of it.
Okay.
So I can show you guys. But yeah, Benny, if you want to,
I mean, I bet the major difference is that the thing is soldered for like worth of shit. So.
Yeah. I've had no problems, and I've played the hell out of it in the past couple of days.
I have just totally made the switch from first party to 8-bit dough controllers for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love 8-bit dough, and they're cheap and they work really, really well. I just actually
I have a Genesis and a SNES controller on my wish list for this podcast, pretty much just USB, and because should just interface directly with any of the emulators we use.
Yeah,
I mean, first party console that I still own.
Well, so actually that was going to be my point. So I just got a 2.4G wireless. I think it's called the M30 8-bit dough controller for my Genesis, and I've been playing a lot of fucking Genesis lately.
Nice, because
it's like the
6 button.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you got to get the arcade pad. Yeah. Because I've got. I mean, I have an EverDrive, so I have all the games, but I have Street Fighter 2 on. Yeah.
Sorry.
We gotta. Can we drop that picture in the show description too? Just because we talked about it.
My name is engraved in it. So
you blur it out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll blur it out.
And it's kind of like potato quality picture too. I took it on the fly really quick in dark lighting. One of my friends wanted to see it because he was interested. And because again,
he also engraved his home address and the list of the things he's allergic to.
Yeah, and my fears.
He's also working on that enemies list from the other episode, and he's got that on the back.
I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were talking about.
No, bro, you're fine. But no, like, I guess my point is, like, I have the 8-bit dough Pro 2 as my like default controller just everywhere in the house, because it's got the little physical switch on the back between Switch mode, Xbox mode, / Windows, and then Android mode. And so I can just carry it around with me, flip the little switch to whatever I'm playing, and it just automatically links up Bluetooth and plays, and it's they're great.
I would love to take a look at that, but I'm over here giggling because I'm imagining you're like some psycho prepper where you just have like controllers like taped under tables and shit, and like in holsters next to your bed and shit, and you just have like controllers around the house. Like someone's gonna break in, and I'm gonna have to play them at video games.
One's in a shoebox in his closet because that's the stereotype.
I can't let anyone see this. I filed the serial number off of it.
Yeah.
So.
Somebody breaks into my house.
Yeah, like actually on the back, like the Redmond, Washington Xbox logo and shit's like peeled off of one of them,
It's like
scratched
scraped
out.
off with a key.
Somebody breaks into my house and I reach under my bed and pull it. There's got one Velcroed to the bottom of my bed and I fling it at him. Like, ow.
It's a good durability test there.
It is. And one that I think they'd pass. But yeah, that's the end of my shilling for random Chinese corporations.
They have really high like visibility on like Amazon though. If you're looking for a controller, 8-bit
nice.
like shows up at the top of your lists.
And they've started making in a trend that most Chinese electronics manufacturers followed. Like they started out making, inexpensive but decent quality stuff, and now they're starting to make some really high end stuff. Like they've got some new custom model controllers that are intended to compete with some of the first party Sony and Xbox stuff. So, but yeah, they're cool. I like them, and I have them on literally every system that I own.
Cool.
Benny, what were you?
Benny, what controllers do you use? I mean, what games were you playing?
Well, lately I've been revisiting some older, not generally in like the realm of like 16-bit gaming, but I went back to try to go through Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
Because I'd never actually played my way through that, and I kind of talk about From Software games a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also like the same neighborhood as you, Brent, in terms of like when I talk about these. I am not that the guy on the forums who's telling people to get good.
Yeah.
I am the guy that those douchebags tell to get good, but I still like these games a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going through and struggling. Dark Souls 2 is a detour or like a definitely like a different derivation. D's from the aside from the alliteration, it's a different game than the others in the series, and it's definitely my least favorite for the moment. But it's doing some cool things too with some of the stats.
So I've played some Dark Souls and I've played some Elden Ring. I've never played Dark Souls 2. I know that it's a more within the From Software fan community. Dark Souls 2 is a pretty controversial title.
Yeah.
What about it is changed? Explain that to me, because I'm not a.
So like to start, the developer, well, I guess it's From Software, but the creator was not affiliated with that game. I'm forgetting his name right now. Miyazaki.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember his first name, but he wasn't affiliated with the production of that game, to my knowledge. And it really feels different. It feels like a different world. Mm-hmm. Mechanically, it's really similar, but under the hood, a lot of things changed too. So, like, a thing I ended up having to look up because I was starting to get really frustrated was what guides the roll mechanic. Because like rolling and dodging is like
it's
one
the
of the
whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's like the critical thing that you have to master to survive. Unless you're one of those psychos that just parries everything and then counterattacks, you fucking lunatics. Mm-hmm. And that works fundamentally differently in Dark Souls 2. Of the 3 like core Dark Souls games that exist right now, Dark Souls 3 is my favorite one.
Yeah.
It feels the most like Dark Souls, while not really starting to branch into like the modernity that is Elden Ring.
Sure.
Which is like one of my, I've mentioned as like top 5
game
games of all time for me. But there's underlying mechanics that like stat changes that you have to know to level to actually make your roll worth a shit in Dark Souls 2. So I spent the first half of the game going, why am I getting absolutely demolished while I'm like effective? I feel like I'm effectively dodging shit. I just wasn't effectively dodging shit because I have. Are you familiar with the concept of iframes? in those games. They're the invulnerability frames during your roll. It's the amount of time. Yeah. Exactly. And it's guided by frames of animation.
Yeah.
You literally have fewer to start with than you do in other games. Okay. And there's a stat increase that you can level to actually improve the number. So I was like, why am I getting my shit rocked all the time? Stop it.
So we call that a Brent when you misunderstand a core game mechanic and as a result don't enjoy a game.
I do like how...
I had such a good Brent on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like in Elden Ring, though, how they tied that dodge in with the armor you're wearing, or it's a lot more intuitive, like the dodge distance. Like if you're wearing the lighter, that was nice.
And they show you your encumberment rating more clearly. It's still it's shown like you still have to keep your equipped load under 70% of your maximum load to have like your normal.
Tell me about your load.
It's mostly armor and some swords.
God, I feel so sorry for your wife. That might have to get cut out. That's so dumb.
And his wife chimes in like, no, you're right. Like,
sword fighting is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cut that. It's all garbage. Anyway, like, because this is not even an episode about From Software games. That's so good. And then I've been playing, so speaking of my wife, we have gone back. She wanted to play the first Assassin's Creed game, so we're going back and playing through that.
Yeah.
And it's
a fun game.
Are you going to get all the flags?
Fuck no. I did that the first time I played it. Never, like, that's such a time waste unless you're like a completionist every time you play a game. I did it once. It's enough for me.
I did it once because I had mono and had nothing else better to do.
I mean, fair enough. Well, they don't tell you which ones that you've gotten and which ones you haven't. They just give you like a running count of so many out of 100 or whatever you have in the city. Yeah. So if you've missed any at any point and you want to go use a guide, then you just have to check 100 locations in every city to fucking find them.
Jesus Christ.
And I'll be honest, it doesn't play real well.
Yeah.
It's another one of these where you're going to have to shim it on your system a little bit, even if you don't want to play it with a controller.
Yeah.
Because it's not meant to be played with a controller on PC, for at least the version that Steam has. It almost doesn't work. You'll have to use a community controller profile.
Oh, wow.
And then you'll have to do some operating system shims, especially if you have like a high core count AMD CPU. Yeah.
Looks at me while he said that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I looked at Kirk because he's the only one in the room with more cores than I have at the moment, I think. I don't know. Maybe Brent does.
I can't imagine I do.
Anyway. It's almost like I was...
Kirk's just like, no.
It's almost like I was asking a 20-year-old game to run on a system that I built 3 years ago. So,
yeah. Hey, I got the original build of Vice City to run on my computer. That was a day on the PC gaming wiki.
I bet.
But yeah,
it's a fun one.
It is a good game.
Soundtrack was
so
good.
Yeah, I got
the whole Scarface kind of an analog. So good.
I got another. I have a small problem with Chinese-made emulation handhelds. I got another one.
Jesus, dude!
I've got another one in the mail too.
Those are what you're strapping under your kitchen tables and shit.
But I got one exclusively to play with Portmaster, which is the fan project to start porting a lot of Linux games to ARM64 Linux. And there's actually some really impressive stuff you can play on a $60 handheld, including Stardew Valley's the big hitter. But I've been playing Stardew Valley on a $60 device, which is pretty fucking cool. And Blatro plays on everything, and a bunch of stuff.
And because you're an addict,
I have a problem. Yeah. But yeah. San Andreas, Vice City, and GTA 3. You can, if you get the original like CD release of it, you can use the files in that and then port it to ARM64 Linux. And so I've been playing Vice City on a $60 handheld. And while I had it installed, I was like, well, can I actually run it on my computer? And No. You know why? Because everyone listening to this values their time more than I do. Like, that's you shouldn't do that. Don't try. Especially when you can just get the fucking version that's on Steam. Anyway, let's talk about the game that we're talking about. Which
this is totally on brand, Brent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which it's a Genesis game, so we know Benny brought it.
It's true.
Yeah. But I think it's my favorite Genesis game, which is Streets of Rage. Yeah.
That's real good.
I fucking love that game. Yeah. All right, good episode, guys. Yeah.
I think we've already, outside of the podcast, like exhausted the. It has two things. It's got streets, and it has rage.
So much rage.
Yeah.
We've
covered everything at that point.
It's got Blaze, so it's got tiny pixelated boobies.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's also got all the ladies of the night.
Strumpet's most foul.
Why? What? You had that locked and fucking loaded. That was amazing.
But foul for the other reason, because they're.
I've been saying it around.
Chickens.
I've been saying it around the house a lot lately.
Oh, the other kind of foul.
Yeah, they're chickens. Yeah. Ducks, technically. Yeah. No, I do love
pheasant hookers.
We should probably intro this game and talk about like the beginning of it and your background with it before we just dive right into the BDSM chicks that are walking around.
Oh, hell yeah. Step on me.
But we do need to get to the BDSM chicks because I love... And this is not the only game that's like this. There's a bunch of Japanese games from the early 90s where they seem to have the idea that just walking through any Americans, like you could just be walking through Cincinnati at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's just all guys with mohawks and chicks in leather bikinis just beating the shit out of each other, which isn't wrong, but it is weird that that's what they think.
Yeah, that's more of a Philly thing than a Cincinnati.
Yeah. That's Detroit.
I was going to say some of the settings in this game are definitely Detroit.
Yeah. Detroit.
Although the one that's like inexplicably on the beach in like Miami,
yeah.
I love that.
Oh my god. Yeah, we have to talk about all the bizarre locations and the weird bosses. We also have to talk about the fact that I am so much of a dad that now as I play Streets of Rage, there's a lot of characters that I'm like, oh, she really needs to put more clothes on.
Yeah, she's looking a little slender. Do you need a sandwich?
Yeah. Are you hungry, hon?
You look cold.
You look a little pale. When was the last time did you eat?
I wish that was a joke, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Benny. So tell us about Streets of Rage and how you ran into it, and kind of what your history is with the game.
Yeah, so well, we can talk about the beginning. So Streets of Rage came out in 1991.
Yep.
Published by Sega, and I'm not familiar with Dotemu, or maybe I am. But,
no,
so is that one of the other
Dotemu and
Dotemu? Okay,
they did the remake. God.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. They're a French developer. They also did Shredder's Revenge.
Is that the correct? I guess that is the correct spelling on here. I guess I knew it was Sega, and I was kind of like, who the fuck is this? Okay. Yeah, released in. Honestly, I probably played this several years after it came out at the first because I would have been 4.
Right. You weren't playing a lot of Streets of Rage when you were 4.
Probably not approved.
Yeah.
Not parent approved.
I don't know. The 90s were fucking weird.
That's true. It's like
there was a lot of shit. Like I watched Body Double when I was like 7, and I'm like, he ran a fucking like drill through that woman. Like that's
I'm like 12 years old watching like Leprechaun and like all those 80s horror movies, God. And just like you'll be fine.
It's cool.
You're not going to be emotionally scarred by any of this.
No.
I don't think I am.
No.
No one's ever going to find any of the evidence.
But anyway, so you probably weren't 4 when you played Streets of Rage.
No. So we're talking about a 2D side scroller.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember the
classic beat 'em up.
Yeah. You've got like that kind of isometric view, so you can move up and down, left and right. But basically, you're moving from left to right, and just beating the shit out of a bunch of people who are inexplicably angry at you. I'm trying to remember what the plot is now. It's been a couple months since I played this.
It's like a crime boss.
Yeah,
like
I want to say that
Mr. X, right?
Somebody's like, no, I know what it is. Okay, so the 3 are, because I just played it like 2-3 days ago. The 3 are all like
they're cops.
Yeah, and and they're trying to like clean up the streets from this like one particular crime boss that we get to at the end. I won't dive too into this, but it's very clearly patterned off of Final Fight, which came out in the arcades in the late 80s. It looks very Final Fight. The only difference is we don't have Hagar and we don't have his daughter getting kidnapped. But it looks like Final Fight, and that's why for so many years I discounted this game. And I was just like, oh, that's Sega's weird Final Fight that looks like an arcade game but isn't. And I regret those years because this is so much a better game than Final Fight.
It also reminds me of another game, which I probably won't bring to the podcast, but one that is still kind of nostalgic for me, Golden Axe.
Yep.
Yeah! Is kind of similar as well.
Oh, no, we got to talk about Golden Axe.
I thought you hated Golden Axe.
Yeah, we've got lots to talk about.
Okay, well then we can definitely, maybe you can bring that one.
Yeah.
But this game, this format would definitely kind of persist, into like the
genre at the time.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games kind of take a big nod from this same style as well.
And I would say Konami's beat 'em ups of this era are the only other ones that I would sort of put in the same tier as the Streets of Rage games. Like I would say Turtles in Time is every bit the equal of, especially Streets of Rage 2, I think is the best game in the series. But
I think so, and Turtles in Time is like the quintessential game of the type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love the box art of Streets of Rage 3. It always sticks, and it sticks in my memory forever because there's a fucking kangaroo with boxing gloves on. Like that's so amazing. Then an old man with like a cyborg arm.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's the most 80s thing from the mid 90s that you'll ever find.
Because the first box art is just like some guy Jackie Chan fly kicking another dude in the face, and it's pretty cool, but it's not super crazy memorable.
Which, in defense of the Jackie Chan like jumping kicks, that's some of my favorite stuff in the gameplay.
Yeah,
like I love
you do that a lot.
Yeah,
it's the most effective move aside from just nuking everything.
Yeah,
which is I fucking love that. So we're in terms of structure, we're walking from left to right and just laying waste to everything that comes our way.
Yeah.
If you need to, you can punch your way straight through a phone booth and then gather some detritus from within and then kick the shit out of a dude with like a lead pipe.
Yep.
Or just grab a knife and chuck it at someone. This is a super fun, violent game.
Which we shouldn't discount that, at the time, again, this was a huge genre. Just the fact that you were picking up and using weapons, a lot of games didn't have that. There definitely were some before, including some that we mentioned, like Final Fight and Turtles in Time. But that there were an awful lot of side-scrolling beat-em-ups that the only form of combat you had was punching and kicking. And so this breaks it up a little bit.
And I'm sure that's nothing from a engineering or a coding standpoint to be able to sustain that many things in memory at that time. But you have health restorative items, and you have a pretty good variety of weapons that get dropped by enemies or that you can, like I said, collect from trash cans, phone booths. You guys remember phone booths, right?
I do.
Various other things. And then
Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
You'll generally...
Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Childhood was weird.
Personal pan pizzas.
Yeah.
I still make those.
Yeah, but what's the last time you had one?
Well,
probably about the last time you had a high C, too.
Probably. That's because I'm 6'2", and a personal pan pizza is not... I need like 3 of them. I don't order a personal pan pizza. I order a personal pan pizzas.
I order any pizza that I order is personal.
Yeah, this is back when pizza was still good.
We were talking about
they had the red cups, and they always had a Pac-Man or a Galaga machine in the corner.
We were talking about pluralizing
we had
words earlier.
Spy Hunter.
Pizza.
We had Spy Hunter in ours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like Spy Hunter. And they had the stained glass
Pizza logo. Yeah, right?
Yeah, well, and the little chandelier thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine that had one of those from when a Pizza Hut closed down.
And then the ribbons
over his pool table.
And then the ribbons or stars or whatever from the kids doing the book reading thing to get the personal pan pizza.
And the entire place smells like cigarettes.
Yep.
Despite there being a smoking and a non-smoking section.
Absolutely.
Ours had a fucking fireplace in it. That worked.
What?
It was crazy.
That's weird. So Streets of Rage. Yeah, so produced by Noriyoshi Oba, who I wanted to talk about just briefly, because I love anytime you get any of these old school Japanese games from the early 90s, and you just look into any random person who's associated with it, they always have a credit list that's just crazy. So Oba also worked on Clockwork Knight, Skies of Arcadia, Phantasy Star, Revenge of Shinobi, Daytona USA, and Deep Fear. It's like, fuck.
Damn, man.
And then we'll talk about it more when we get to the music, but Yuzo Koshiro, the guy who did the music for the whole Streets of Rage series, is one of my favorite developer composers from this era. And he a real weird guy, especially for a Japanese developer, because he bounced around from company to company and then wound up founding his own, which is most of those Japanese developers, they work for one company. It's like Koji Kondo. Like he worked exclusively for Nintendo. But Koshiro worked for Nihon Falcom, and he worked for NX and a couple other companies. So his stuff's all over the place. He did the music for the first couple Ys games. Also Revenge of Shinobi, he worked with Oba on that. ActRaiser, Shenmue, Etrian Odyssey. And then he wound up founding Ancient, which was a second-party developer for Sega for a while, and I think did the Beyond Oasis, I think. Was Ancient, if I remember correctly. But they did a couple other games as well.
They did a ton of them, including Streets of Rage 2.
There you go. So, yeah, Yuzo Koshiro.
And Streets of Rage 3.
Well, there you go. But yeah, so yet more music, yet more evidence that the music is going to be important in the Streets of Rage.
I had the link pulled up. This list is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I had always kind of discounted this series because I was a Nintendo kid, and I was like, first off, just because of console wars, elementary school bullshit, I was like, oh, it's on Sega, it's gotta suck. I don't know why I had a deeper voice when I was 7 than I do now. I don't know what happened there. But
he was an elementary student chain smoker.
Yeah. Cools, too.
Oh, yeah.
It was the 90s. It's possible. But yeah, I always discounted it. I was like, yeah, it's fucking Sega Final Fight. And then played it, and I was like, this is so crisp. Like, it's the responsiveness of the controls. We haven't talked about it, but there's a little bit of like fighting game mechanics in terms of how you can do grapples and things like that are a little bit more complicated than a lot of other
the suplex smash is just
it's
fucking
so
awesome.
A straight up German suplex people. That is it's so satisfying. If you don't mind, I can talk about how, because it's the games that made us.
Yeah.
So, how we got introduced to it or whatever. I can chat about that. So one of my first unfortunate, I guess, forays into beat 'em ups is Maximum Carnage.
Oh no.
That game is so fucking hard. I mean, outside of like Turtles in Time, because everyone had played that. Yeah. That's probably something we should talk about in the future, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a buddy of mine, I had Maximum Carnage. He had Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
So we just did the classic swap. They're both beat 'em ups, and I'm like, I'm fucking done with this game. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Then oddly enough, it just, we never traded back, so I think he was cool with it. Yeah, but we had a Genesis in the house. It was I think the Genesis was like the last console we had in the house that was purchased by our parents. So I spent a lot of time playing Streets of Rage, and it was also one of the earlier games where it was either my mom or my father came in and they were watching me play it.
Yeah.
And they saw like the BDSM girls and stuff like that walking around, and they were like, what is this?
Explain.
Yeah. And it's so funny. So my mom used to refer to the game as RoboCop. Because it had like that dystopian kind of like weird 80s, like she kept referring to it. She would call it well, you know how like moms call everything Nintendo. Meme. It was the same thing. She's like, I don't know how I feel about you playing that RoboCop game. I'm like, Streets of Rage, Mom. Like, yeah, what's the difference?
Oh yeah, that was smart. It's like, no, Mom, it's not RoboCop. It's Streets of Rage.
Yeah,
that's what I should be playing, Mother.
Yeah.
I don't have enough rage.
And to her credit, I did also have like Terminator versus RoboCop, that game later on. But so I can kind of...
Streets of Rage is a better RoboCop game than most of the RoboCop games.
Yeah, so I spent a pile of time playing it. Oddly enough, not really, because they want you to play with another person.
Yeah.
But I never really did. And even when I had friends over, it was always one of us watching the other one play.
Yep.
And it might be because of like the, like Turtles in Time thing. You just get in each other's way all the time or kill each other on accident or like, motherfucker, you took the pizza. I needed the fucking pizza. Like,
well, and Streets of Rage, unlike a lot of other games of this type, Streets of Rage has friendly fire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. So you can accidentally chuck a knife and stick your teammate.
So, like a couple of months ago, I was hanging out with my
Brett
neighbor.
knifed a guy.
Yeah, and then we went and played Streets of Rage. But no, my neighbor was over and we were having some beers, and I was like, "Hey, you want to?" And he had a Genesis when he was a kid. I was like, "Hey, do you want to go down and play something?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What was that game? You know, the one where there's like all the chicks in leather and you walk to the right." And I'm like, Streets of Rage. He's like, yeah. And so we were playing, and then, of course, we were both shit-faced, so we just beat the shit out of each other in the game. Yeah. Totally forgot that it was not a one-on-one fighting game.
I mean, it plays pretty well as one.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It is also a better game with, like, to play, like, PvE, not just PvP kind of mechanics, but, like, it's better with two people.
It is. It is. It definitely is. And I like that they did at least attempt to make the different characters play a little differently. I'm a basic bitch and always pick the white dude. I can't remember their names. Blaze is the girl. That's the only part that's important. Largely because first off, her name's fucking Blaze, and that's cool. And secondly, because one of the bosses is just 2 copies of her, which is excellent.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to look up the characters' names. Yes, Axel Stone, Blaze Fielding, and Adam Hunter.
Yeah.
These are the most 80s action movie names I've ever heard.
Absolutely. I love the part 2. So I was watching a video about the game, and there was it was this 2 black dudes, and they're like, yeah, it was great because there was a black guy in there. But the thing that always seemed unrealistic to me is that you pressed a button and the cops came and helped you.
God damn.
He's like, yeah, that doesn't seem right.
I definitely wanted to touch on that mechanic because I find that very funny today. But I think that was kind of a similar experience for me, Kirk, because that was one of the few games that I had on my Genesis when I was, especially like kind of at the beginning, because we were very poor for a while. And so like I had like 3 games and Streets of Rage was one of them. And then Desert Strike was one of the other ones. We'll have to talk about that too sometime.
Yeah, that was on your like initial list
for
the podcast. Yeah.
So you have to like, pick carefully or get lucky, or like everyone probably at the time had a game that just like sat in a box or sat in the original box and never got played. You're like, this was a mistake.
Spy versus Spy, NES.
Yep. So
yeah,
but this was not one of them. This one definitely got plenty of play.
Yeah,
and this is definitely one of the games that is one of the causes for like me being on this podcast, aside from some early computer games as well, which you also have that kind of list like Commander Keen and some of these other PC games, Wolfenstein 3D. But when we get to console, this is one of the entry forays. Like some of the other slightly later games that I have brought, like Chrono Trigger, which is like very important to me, wasn't necessarily one of like the formative games for me. Or I guess it was, but it wasn't like what kept me going get to that stage.
You'd already decided that video games were a thing for you by the time you ran into that.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons for that.
Yeah. Well, so we've covered off on gameplay. There's not a ton of it, but I do want to mention one of the things. So, it's pretty standard. There's, punch and kick and a jump, which the combination of the jump and the kick is, as we mentioned, the most powerful move in the game. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. The goal is to herd all the enemies to one side so that you can just punch and kick in a direction so that you don't get attacked from behind. Mm-hmm. But this game does have, like a lot of games of this type, there's like a power move or a screen clear, but it's unique. It's a different. They did something a little different with this than a lot of games of this type, which is there's a button that you press. I think it's A. On the Genesis controller, and the screen jerks off to the left, and you see a cop car roll up with a man with a fucking shoulder-mounted rocket launcher who begins raining the enemies with rockets in just a fucking cop wet dream. It's so good.
Full jump to RPG strike.
But the cop like straight up reels in the frame like high speed in a cop car. The cop doesn't get out of the cop car. He just points the rocket launcher
through the window
or sunroof. And then fires a fucking bazooka out of the cop car.
And then your screen is filled with flames circling around and just wiping everything out.
Yes. It's so good. It's the best. If you don't play this game, which you should, but if you don't, go just on YouTube and look up the screen clear move from Streets of Rage, because it's well worth it all on its own. Do we want to talk a little bit about like the levels and bosses? Because that I think also is one of the unique things about this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like how well designed the levels are. Because I mean, they're formulaic, but like super stylized and very cool.
Yeah, and I think that'll dovetail into the into the graphics as well. Because this is so there's a lot of things about this game that, because I didn't play this until much later. I was an adult when I played this game for the first time. And
fucking nerd.
I know. But there's a lot of things about this game that sort of dispelled some myths and some beliefs that I had about the Genesis, right? I always thought that the Genesis like never had as colorful and bright graphics as the Super Nintendo, and that the Super Nintendo always had better sound than the Genesis. And I think in the wrong hands, the Genesis could look and sound really bad.
Yeah, and you might have ended up with more like third party or like movie, games based on movies that ended up on the Genesis. And I think there were plenty of games that just were worse on the Genesis. I think overall, like it's got maybe a deeper catalog. I don't remember which catalog is deeper, but it's definitely got a lot of junk to have to swim through to get to the gems.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of the problem was that an awful lot of Japanese developers, which were the highlight AAA developers on console in the era, were developing for the Super Nintendo first because that was much more successful in Japan, and then porting games to the Genesis. And I think they suffered as a result because the sound and the graphics were so different on the Genesis than they were on the Super Nintendo. But this game, I was like, booted it up for the first time, and I was like, oh, fuck, no, this looks and sounds fantastic for the era. And it is, the graphics are really bright and colorful and detailed, and they have this cyberpunky look to them that's just really, really memorable. Especially given like there were so many like Double Dragons and Final Fights and like I'm gonna say this and I'll probably make people mad, but like Battletoads, like there were so many like washed out, goobery looking fucking nasty ass beat 'em ups, and this game just looks so crisp and clean and edgy. Like playing it as an adult, even I was like, this game is badass. Like, and I don't mean just it's good. I mean like it has this vibe that feels. I mean that's what the Genesis was all about, right? It was dangerous. It was the cool system for the cool kids. And this should have been what this...
Backwards baseball cap activated.
Right. Right.
It's smooth. It's polished and stylized.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll have to drop some...
This game does a line of coke off of you.
Yeah. That's it. But yeah, right from the jump...
Dick dingers.
Like that first level is, you know, it's that like city at night, lots of neon, really, really cool look. And you start getting introduced to the recurring bad guys that, you know, are
reskinned.
Yeah. And recolored. And I do love that trope of just like, You knew you'd fucked up. You knew you were in a bad situation when you started seeing the enemies from the first couple levels, but now they were a different color, and it's like, oh, they're going to take more punches.
You know, something cool that they did in this game that I don't remember a lot of games doing was not so much recycling bosses, but you start encountering bosses as normal enemies eventually. So like the big dude at the beginning of the first level. Mm-hmm. And the first two levels, like there's a big dude and then the dude with like the Wolverine claws.
Yeah.
Like you start getting those guys thrown at you as like mini bosses or like in the middle of the next course or the next level.
Yeah.
And so it really ups the ante, but it also does a good job of making you feel like you've progressed or that you're the badass, because the thing that was, and you know, they're going to be tuned down to kind of be more like a normal enemy, but it has the effect of making it appear as though you are way more badass than you were at the beginning, and that you're just mowing through shit, and that's very cool.
Yeah, some of the health bars on the bosses in this are pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
especially that fucking, I can never get past. Okay, so I think it is the Miami Beach level.
Yeah, was tough.
There's a like a sumo wrestler who breathes fire. Is that level? He's the boss, and that guy is impossible because first off, he goes really fast.
Yes.
Secondly, as soon as you get near him, he starts breathing fire, which knocks you back, and you can't really jump over the fire. You have to get behind him before he starts. And
I'm trying to remember it. One of the tactics you can use against him is to like save up all your specials and then just have your cop friends fire rockets at him until he's mostly dead. I think there's also like he probably operates on some sort of like decision tree. I think if you're close enough to him or if you stay like right inside of his range, I don't think he breathes fire. I think he will hit you, but I think you can actually like, I think it's when you get outside or if you're like backing away, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of that, I hate to bring it up again, but like the Dark Souls kind of thing where like you have to know when to get away or when to get real close.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there are a number of really well-designed, very frustrating bosses in this. I mentioned earlier that you do eventually fight 2 copies of Blaze.
Yeah.
And that is one of them, like that's the one that I like always die at. I'm like, I'm done now. Because
if you don't take out one really fast, you're screwed.
But yeah, so yeah, let's talk about the fucking music because that's my favorite part. I mentioned Yuzo Koshiro. The guy's done everything. He's still working. Has this insane list of credentials that I rattled off earlier. This soundtrack is really fucking cool. And what it is it's a mix of metal and house influences. Yeah. It sounds like something that fucking, like, I don't know, Fatboy Slim came up with. It's really bizarre.
With a little bit of, like, city pop flair thrown in.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially the character select screen. The do.
Yeah.
Do. I always like that because it was kind of different from the rest of the game, but it was awesome.
And frankly, the fact that it's not straight city pop all the way through is kind of a miracle.
Yeah, especially given
the setting and the time,
the era, but Koshiro was really influenced by a lot of European dance music of the time, and definitely like threatens to become a Prodigy album a couple times throughout. And I always think about how this soundtrack must have been so influential for so many people, just in kind of setting the
like
groundwork.
The standard, or
yeah, well, like setting the groundwork for what became more common music in the late 90s and early 2000s. Like how many little kids played Streets of Rage and then heard Linkin Park 10 years later.
Us.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, oh yeah, this makes sense because of Yuzo Koshiro. Like I feel like he's in the DNA of a lot of the dumb kids who listen to nu metal in the early 2000s.
I mean, and this game soundtrack still fucking rocks.
Oh God, it's so good. It's so good. I was listening actually to a podcast where they were talking about Streets of Rage, and the guy was like, oh yeah, this is the first CD game soundtrack I ever bought. And I'm like, I wished I had access to that. I would have got it as well. It's fucking great. I'd still listen to it, but yeah.
Why did everyone look at me for like, don't do that?
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's really weird. You were talking about the music, and you both just started looking at me like, fuck you, I don't got anything to say. Like, no. Oh, he's moving the reflection screen to attack mode. Uh-oh.
Lock S foils in attack position.
Yeah.
I'm Porkins, let's be honest.
Stay on target.
I can hold it.
I think these screens that we have, courtesy of Kirk, around our mics are really cool, but also way too tempting to play with.
We
were all just kind of like flapping them like birds' wings for
yeah,
moving them around.
This is great for a visual medium. See this? See what I'm doing here, guys?
Hence why I explained what we were doing.
Music's good. Listen to the music of Streets of Rage. Yes, it's a beat 'em up. It's a short game. It's a good game.
It sounds how Japanese violence sounds.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. It sounds how Japanese violence sounds, and it looks like how Japanese people imagine American violence looks.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm okay with.
Yeah. Which actual American violence is more, guys in plaid shirts beating the shit out of each other next to like a dead cow. But
or Denny's.
Or a Denny's. Or a Waffle House.
Yeah, Waffle House as of late would be a little more spot on.
Did you see the thing where a group of people kept tweeting at the developer of the new Street Fighter game to try and get a fucking Waffle House parking lot added as one of the... That's like this 70-year-old Japanese man. He's like, I don't know what that is, but probably not. I don't...
Cue the fan mods.
Yeah.
Why does everything bad happen outside of a Waffle House?
That's true.
Wasn't there one like they had to close? Yeah, wasn't there one that closed because there kept like fights kept breaking out in it all the time?
Yes.
It was like in Georgia or something.
Haven't you heard the song "The Worst Waffle Shack in the Nation"?
Oh my god, Waffle Shack's in Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Well, this guy had to change the name to Waffle Shack.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing because of a strongly worded cease and desist letter. I'll play it for you offline here. It's really great.
Oh my god! Speaking of mods, did you see the thing about one of the developers for the Final Fantasy remake series asking nicely that modders please not immediately make everybody nude? And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. They're gonna make Tifa nude. It's just gonna happen. You need to be okay with it.
You put her in a leather mini skirt and a tight white tank top in the 90s. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, not only that.
Also, her fucking victory animation is just her lifting her hands over
I was
her head.
just gonna say.
I know.
God.
Jesus.
Which
there is already porn of all of those characters anyways. Like, what are you stopping? Nothing.
No.
You can't stop progress.
I mean, I am sorry. The time has come, said the
onward
modder.
march of technology.
I'm just
towards Tifa Lockhart porn.
There's just some nerd with a 3D rendering program just cracking his knuckles right now, just like it's time.
I already had the models and the textures.
Yes.
But it's
record time
anymore. I don't know why. It must be a trend or something. But any of that kind of porn is gonna end up being like Fuda porn, and she's got like a fucking 3-foot cock or whatever. And it's fucking everywhere. Just like the stepbrother stepsister trope for a while. It's like, are we really out of ideas?
That's your complaint is that there weren't better ideas.
Kinda, yeah. Like I know what I want in my life.
There's like
thank God this one doesn't have subtitles.
There's like 3 billion people online. Yeah. Are we really out of weird ideas? Yeah. It's like Imager has just become nothing but furries. It's like
right.
And I'm like, I don't care. I like, dude, do you?
Yeah.
I like.
We're not here to gatekeep or to shame anyone.
Like,
I mean, we may make the
let
jokes.
your freak flag fly. I don't care.
Your disgusting freak flag fly.
Just to be clear, I as long as it's between consenting adults, I don't give a fuck what you do. Go you. Live your best life. I'm just like.
I didn't think I would have to say this either, but adult humans.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. I guess given context, that is important. Yeah. But I just like I've got a website where I like to go look at cute cat pictures, and it's being flooded with cute cat pictures, if you know what I mean.
When you started that sentence, I have a website I like to go to. I broke out in flop sweat, Brian.
I like to go to guaranteedvirus.com. Yeah. The owner of the site's a real piece of work.
We know that guy.
Yeah, we actually know that guy who owns that web domain.
What?
It's a real domain, and we know the guy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You're right. Okay. So go to guaranteedvirus.com now. That's where we should host the show.
Yes.
Oh, why did viewership drop off?
Or just have a redirect to our YouTube channel. I bet he'd do it.
Probably.
He's not doing anything with it.
That's amazing. That's so good. Okay.
Anyway, there were streets and
they were filled with rage.
There was some rage.
Do you think the cops got the main characters got paid more? Probably not. Like, we're going to put you in a really heavily dangerous situation. Maybe they did it as just so they wouldn't have to pay out their pension or whatever. It's like, we don't like you in this precinct, so we're going to send you out to clear out these drug-infested whorehouses or whatever. And it was supposed to be a suicide mission, and it worked, and it didn't work the way they planned.
In the opening crawl, it says 3 cops, and then when you go to the character select screen, it lists them all as ex-cops. So did they get fired between the opening crawl and the character select screen? Or is this like to Kirk's point, they didn't want to pay him pensions, so they fired him and sent him off to fight crime.
Maybe they've gone rogue, and maybe that's why they're just calling in
or
the help.
fired them while they were out on the streets
of rage.
of rage.
Yeah.
We've been making fun a lot, but I do have to say this. Well, I guess we've been upfront about the fact that this is a good game. In fact, the series is at least the first 3 which I've played. I have not played the one that came out in 2020.
Yeah, I haven't played 4 yet. I'd like to.
But 1 through 3 are really good games.
Yeah.
They play well and they're fun. They're hard.
Yeah.
But I think they're balanced well and they look great. So in case it wasn't clear, like I think we'd recommend playing these games even now.
Definitely.
And the difficulty curve isn't horrendous either. There's some boss fights that are a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But
It's
otherwise,
fair. You never feel like you died.
It's not
for
like
no reason.
it's not like Battletoads.
And it doesn't come out of nowhere either. Like you said, there's a difficulty curve that is manageable.
Yes, yeah. Like they ease you into it. Like, it's going to get a little bit harder each level, but they don't just crack you over the head with it like Turtles in Time.
Yeah. Turtles in Time goes from very easy to very hard very quickly.
Yes.
Luckily, by the time it gets very hard, there's like 1 level left.
What's the X-Men game that has the one that's like in every arcade and it's the same?
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think that's Konami also.
I think it is
the X-Men arcade game.
Yeah. That one's another perfect example of.
Yeah, that's just a quarter muncher.
If you like that one, then you'd probably like this.
Oh, that Simpsons beat 'em up.
Oh
one.
yeah.
So that is the same because they did The Simpsons, they did the 2 Turtles games. Those are all Konami.
We just named so much 90s shit.
Yeah. The Simpsons arcade game is really funny too because they put it out like halfway through season 1. So most of the characters are just like Konami artists drew, like that they didn't know, and like a lot of people are like the wrong colors or don't look quite right.
Like based off of like some weird half impression key art from the series from early on.
Yeah.
That's great.
That one's not my favorite. But Streets of Rage is great. You should play it. Play any of the first 3. They're all really fun. And there's like no excuse not to play them because they're everywhere. The Genesis collections that Sega puts out are available on every platform. If you want to go original hardware, you can just pick up a Sega 6-pack. Those are really cheap for the Genesis, and that includes the first Streets of Rage game.
I will say that I think Streets of Rage 2 is, as Kirk said, probably the best.
Yes,
and they introduced 2 new characters, one of whom is my personal favorite in the series, Eddie the Skater.
Yes, Eddie's great.
I didn't say that, but I'll take credit for it. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
No, you said that you liked the second one best earlier.
I did?
Yeah.
Man,
although this is all recorded, so I will have just made a fool of myself if I'm incorrect. So that's fine.
Again,
if Benny
I'll still
is
take
wrong,
credit.
I will put a plug right here. Future Brent will come in and let us know that Benny's full of shit.
Future Brent here. It was me, not Kirk.
You know what? I'll have earned it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that the second one is the best. It's my favorite.
It's my favorite.
I think it's a little smoother too. I think it plays just a little bit better. It's a little more. They figured out what worked in the first one, and the controls are just a little easier, I think.
Yeah, they touched it up just a little bit. But yeah, I think they're all great games.
Yeah.
And Streets of Rage 2 also has some of my favorite, like, just bizarreness. Like, there's an alien level that you get through a carnival. And it's
I
like,
forgot about that.
and it's like, but wait, what? So wait, there's like a xenomorph infestation in the middle of this carnival? Okay, sure, why not?
That also feels very mid-90s.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I also like the one of my favorites in that is the giant bartender, who's like the 8-foot tall bartender who beats the shit out of you. That's pretty cool. But yeah, there's no excuse not to play them. They're everywhere.
Also known as Benny.
Yes. Oh my God, Benny's in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he bald too. So Benny is in the game.
I think so.
Yeah.
I demand royalties.
Yeah.
I was like 6. I demand royalties.
Benny, when he was 6, was already an 8-foot tall bartender.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that.
We think you should go beat up some dominatrixes and some morbidly obese fire breathers.
Just in the game.
No.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you like what we're doing, thank you for joining us. If you like what we're doing, thank you. We like you too. You're also nice, and we like you. And
I bet you smell good.
You know what? If you don't
prove it though.
If you don't, that's okay. You know, we've all been there. Deodorant is cheap though, so it's called Speed Stick. It ain't expensive. Yeah, YouTube, Spotify, Discord. Come talk to us about Streets of Rage or whatever. Double Dragon. Come talk to us about controllers. We seem to have a lot to talk about that. Yeah, and I'm not prepared for this. Bye.
Oh, thank God, the Taco Bell's almost here.
Are you an extinct bird?
Flamingo.
I thought that sounded like the start of an ad.
Albatross.
Hello, are you an extinct bird?
Albatross.
Do you need legal representation? At Johnson Johnson and Associates, we have years of experience helping extinct birds.
I was going to say chicken, and albatross.
Chicken, albatross.